Welcome back to the second part of this mini-series, documenting my process of filling this small sketchbook with drawings of sea creatures, while we also look at some of my travel clips to various seaside locations to stay on theme. A quick overview of the art supplies I'll be using in this episode. My small toned paper sketchbook, of course, with this cool cover that I got from my friend after they visited the Reunion Island, some Sakura brush pens in different colors, my Polychromos colored pencils, a bunch of Sakura jelly roll pens, and of course a graphite pencil and an eraser. So today's first sketch, or should I say first sketch? Haha, no, I guess I shouldn't, is the sockeye salmon, also known as the red salmon. It is typically found in the northern Pacific Ocean. They are actually born in freshwater, and then later on they migrate to the ocean as adults, where they spend most of their lives. They can grow up to around 80 centimeters in length and can weigh between 2 to 7 kilograms. As adults, usually after around 4 years, they return from the ocean into the freshwater they came from in order to spawn. They remember the chemical trace or scent of their birthplace and travel up to over 1,000 kilometers to get back there. They reproduce only once in their lifetime, and both the male and the female die within a few weeks after spawning. While in the ocean, they actually have a white belly and a metallic blue-green top, but as they make the return journey upriver to their spawning grounds, their bodies become red while their heads turn green. And that's what leads us to this sketch. To be honest, I didn't know they get this color combination in such a dramatic way before I did my research for this voiceover. I just liked the colors and wanted to draw it, but yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I used a red and a green Sakura brush pen for the outlines, as well as a bit of white gel pen for the jaw, since this part of the head usually stays white or light grey. I did most of the coloring with Faber-Castell Polychromos colored pencils. For the finishing touches, I added a bit of a shiny effect using the white colored pencil and my trusty white gel pen. Felt like the teeth needed a bit more detail, so I outlined them with a black fineliner. Moving on to the next fish, this one is a Redtail catfish, a large fish found throughout the Amazon River in South America. So they are freshwater fish. They have large heads and long whiskers that are very sensitive and used for the sense of smelling. Their main color is brownish, dark gray or black, with either a white underneath or a wide white stripe across the middle of their bodies, and of course with a characteristic red or orange tail as their name suggests. They can grow over 1.5 meters in length and can weigh up to 80 kilograms. They eat during the night, while staying pretty motionless during the day, just like me on a typical Sunday. This one was interesting to draw, mainly because of the leopard-like pattern on its back, consisting of what looks like hundreds of small dots. So the way I went about this was laying down a base color with a raw umber colored pencil, and then creating lots and lots of dots with a black fineliner. And I mean a lot of dots. I added some dark brown base layer too for the overshadowed part of the tail, before I colored it in with the burnt umber and covered it in dots. Then for the lower part of the fish, I started with a black colored pencil. Thought it was what I was going for, but then I realized I didn't like how it was turning out. So I erased what I could of the colored pencil and went over the area with the same raw umber I used for the upper part. And by blending the colors together like this, I obtained the darker shade that I wanted for the lower part. I covered this whole area in lots and lots of dots as well, of course, and I was really happy with the result. I used dark cadmium orange and a bit of red for the tail and the tips of the fins. The orange looks really vibrant here in combination with the black. Then of course I used the white pencil for its midsection, with a bit of grey for the part that should be overshadowed. It's just really satisfying to use the white pencil on toned paper every time. I colored the eye with a light grey gel pen. For the whiskers I used a white gel pen for more precision. I went over the whiskers and some other fine details with a black fine liner and called it done. The next sketch here is a blue sea dragon, the slug, also known as Glaucus atlanticus, or blue glaucus. I've been meaning to draw one for a long time. They look very cool. It is part of a sea slug family that I'm very much excited about, and I'll definitely draw another one of its members in a future episode. But anyway, the blue glaucus can be found in many parts of the world's oceans, in tropical and subtropical waters. They are small, growing up to about 3 centimeters long. They spend the majority of their lives floating in an upside-down position, storing an air bubble in their stomachs and being carried by the ocean currents. The blue glaucus uses its colors for camouflage, or, in this case, a phenomenon called countershading. The bright blue underside faces upward while floating on its back, thus blending in with the blue of the water, while its back, turned towards the ocean floor, helps it blend in with the water when seen from below. This way, it is a bit more protected from both flying and swimming predators. They are known to feed on larger, venomous sea creatures, such as the bluebottle, a highly venomous jellyfish-like siphonophore. They apparently consume chunks of them. After they feed, they can absorb the venom of their meal and become venomous themselves, storing the toxin in their finger-like tentacle thingies. A group of these slugs is called a blue fleet, and they can often be washed ashore. So for this sketch I used my blue Sakura brush pen, a light blue jelly roll pen, and a dark blue Polychromos pencil. I use the same technique here as in the case of my previous Redtail Catfish sketch, covering a large area with dots in order to create this nice pattern on the slug's back, but in this case using my light blue gel pen, of course. And with that, the blue sea dragon's camouflage was ready. Next up, I chose to draw a seahorse. I tried to reference a lined seahorse, I think, but since apparently there are over 40 different species of seahorses, some of which being very similar in appearance to each other, it might be a bit off, but we'll roll with it. So the lined seahorse lives in various regions along the western part of the Atlantic Ocean, in waters between 5 and 70 meters deep. Their habitat typically consists of seagrasses, corals, mangroves, and sponges. The young ones tend to swim closer to the surface of the water, and in the winter months, the species tends to swim down deeper. They can grow up to usually between 12 and 17 centimeters long, having a lifespan of about 4 years. Their bodies consist of multiple rings of bony plates covered by a thin, stretched out layer of skin instead of scales. This bony armor helps in making them less palatable for predators. Their color can typically range from gray to brown, yellow, or orange, like in my drawing here. But they can change their color depending on their environment, diet, mood, and stress levels. But regardless of their camouflage skill and bony armor, they still get eaten by dolphins, tuna, and sharks. They stay with their partners for an entire season or for their lifetime. And lastly, the fun fact that everyone was expecting, no pun intended, yes, it's the males that give birth to the seahorse babies. The art supplies I used here were an orange brush pen for the outlines and the bony structure, a grey gel pen for the fins, one on his back, one on his head, and some Polychromos colored pencils again. I blended the dark chrome yellow with cadmium yellow and some rose carmine to get an orangish coral color. Then I used some cadmium orange for some slight shading and went over it all with a cream colored pencil. Now for the fins, I tried to give them a delicate look, making them sort of transparent just by outlining them with a light grey gel pen. Then I went in with my orange brush pen to create these sort of horizontal lines across the seahorse's body to emulate the bony texture it has. For the eye, I used a combination of raw umber and some shades of yellow. I left the fin on its back as is, while in the case of the fin from its head area, I colored between the lines to create a see-through illusion. I used the orange colored pencil to add some more shadows here. Here I was trying to give it a more 3D effect by drawing an orange kind of line along its body across the horizontal lines. That's just meant to be part of its bony structure, I guess, to make it a bit more realistic. When it was orange enough, it was time to use my rose carmine pencil, like I said, to get a more corally shade. And here I did the final blending with the help of the cream colored pencil and called it a day. And saving the best for last, a manta ray getting cleaned by Clarion angelfish. Let me explain. So, there are certain spots in the Pacific Ocean, such as near the coast of Hawaii or Mexico, called cleaning stations, where some sea creatures have these symbiotic moments in which the bigger sea creature gets cleaned by letting the small fish swim around it and nibble on the dead skin cells, parasites, bacteria, etc. present on its body. There are a few different species of small sea creatures on cleaning duty, such as the cleaner wrassfish, the scarlet cleaner shrimp, or the Clarion angelfish, which I ended up choosing to draw here. Some fun facts about manta rays: they can presumably live for 50 to 100 years, and they swim constantly during their whole lifetime. They need to keep swimming in order to get oxygenated water passed to their gills. They swim slowly and twirl while eating, mainly small sea creatures such as planktons, but can reach high speeds when fleeing from predators. On the other hand, the Clarion angelfish have this really nice color combination of orange with blue stripes while they are young, and later as they mature, they turn mostly orange with green faces. Still, I prefer the blue stripes, so that's how I drew them in this sketch. It was a bit of a struggle at times to draw the smaller ones from different angles, but it was a very good practice. I struggled a bit, I kept erasing and redrawing as you can see, but the fishies turned out okay in the end. I chose to draw one really close to the viewer / the camera just to show its nice details. Another two sort of swimming away but still being close, especially one of them, and all the others further away, closer to the manta ray, at slightly different distances from each other, indicated by their respective sizes as they gather around the manta ray. I decided to use a black fineliner for the outlines of the Clarion angelfish, since I needed much more precision than I could have gotten with the brush pen, especially for the distant, small ones. Then I added an orange base color with my orange brush pen. For their stripes, I used a light blue gel pen, while for their eyes and lower fins, I used a neon yellow gel pen. These art supplies really made them pop, especially on the toned paper, and they offer a really nice contrast to the black and white manta ray, which of course I colored using a black brush pen and a white gel pen. I had my doubts in the drawing phase, especially with the positioning and size of each fish, and I did erase and redraw a lot, but when I finally saw them in colors, I was much happier with the result than I expected. Just goes to show that sometimes I just need to trust the process, I guess. I liked that I could just go back and forth between the orange brush pen and the blue gel pen, so I could add more precision to the blue stripes. I basically just drew the lines as organically as the gel pen would let me, waited for the paint to dry, and then adjusted them with the orange brush pen by just coloring over the edges of the blue lines. For the Manta ray, I used the black brush pen to cover a large area more easily. It's a juicy one, as you can see, so it was a quick process. But I had to be careful around the fishies, so I left some space around them and came back with a fineliner to color in the small gaps later on. The white fineliner, though a bit streaky on the fins, was fun to use here, and I added some finer details with it too. So I filled a total of 12 pages out of this sketchbook, and we're 5 sketches closer to completing the sketchbook. But what do you think? What aquatic creature would you like me to draw next? Tell me in a comment below and I might include it in a future episode. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you liked it and consider subscribing. See you next time. Finally, for the 7th drawing, I wanted to draw a goldfish, but not just in any position. I wanted to draw one staring directly at you and making a goofy face. After sketching out the big one, or I guess the one closer to you,